Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the House, none of us is happy to be here considering this resolution. I know I am not. At the same time, my colleagues, what is at issue here is of importance to this House and to our country. And that issue is whether we are able to proceed with a degree of civility and decorum that our rules and our democracy contemplate and require. The House Code of Conduct requires that each member, every one of us, each and every one of us, conduct himself, and I'm quoting from the rule, at all times in a manner which shall reflect credibly on the House of Representatives. There seems to be little or no disagreement that Mr. Wilson did not so conduct himself on the evening of September 9th. Senator John McCain was quoted as saying that Mr. Wilson's behavior, and I quote, totally disrespectful. Close quote. He went on to say, quote, there is no place for it in that setting or any other, and he should apologize for it immediately. Mr. Wilson did, in fact, apologize to the President through Mr. Emanuel, the President's Chief of Staff. However, it was the House itself whose rules were offended. And as Mr. Inglis, Mr. Wilson's colleague, a Republican colleague from South Carolina, observed, and again I quote, he should apologize to the House. To the House. For the rule violation. Mr. Inglis went on to add, that would end the matter. I have made a similar representation to the Republican leader, and I believe that would have ended the matter. I know that is what the Republican leaders of the House thought would be appropriate, and what the Republican leader talked to Mr. Wilson about doing. He said so to the press. Indeed, last Thursday, based upon what a Republican leader told me, not Mr. Boehner, that morning, it was what I expected Mr. Wilson to do. As a result, I held open the last vote last week, or the time between the last vote and the very last vote, to give Mr. Wilson an opportunity to express an apology to the House. As all of us know, many members have done that in the past, reflecting upon conduct they thought was not appropriate. And as a result, they came to this floor. That's happened on both sides of the aisle, where members have done things that they thought brought discredit to the House, and they came to this floor, to that rostrum and to this, and to say, I apologize. Mr. Inglis is correct. That would have ended the matter. However, for whatever reason, Mr. Wilson has decided not to take any further action. In light of that, this resolution simply states the House's disapproval of Mr. Wilson's words and actions. As Republican Whip Cantor is quoted as saying, obviously, the President of the United States is always welcome on Capitol Hill, and he deserves respect and decorum. Surely all of us believe that's correct. Surely all of us, hopefully all of us, believe that when we invite a president of either party to come to this House and address a joint session of Congress, that he ought to expect, and we ought to expect, that we will accord to him the decorum and courtesy of which Mr. Cantor spoke. And the Republican leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, added, I think we ought to treat the president with respect, and anything other than that is not appropriate. That's what this resolution is about. It's a resolution of disapproval. This resolution is not about the substance of an issue, but about the conduct we expect of one another in the course of doing our business. Senator John Cornyn, the chairman of the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee, stated this, quote, "There's a time and a place for everything, and that was not the time or the place for that kind of comment." In the absence of Mr. Wilson's expressing his regret for acting in a manner that almost all agree, and every Republican that I've talked to, as well as every Democrat that I've talked to, was inappropriate, contrary to the spirit of the rules of the House and the common courtesy that we should extend to all, and particularly to the President of the United States of America, our President. I expected to extend that same courtesy to every president with whom I've served, be they Republican or Democrat. We consider this resolution as a result of Mr. Wilson's failure to follow the advice of his leadership and a number of his Republican and Democratic colleagues who have told me that they've talked to him. Now, I want to say personally that I know Mr. Wilson. We've had a good relationship. I expect to continue to have a good relationship. I found him a man of measured conduct. I was surprised. I think he was probably surprised as well. A simple apology to this House would have ended the matter. But this House ought not to stand silent in the face of conduct almost universally, and by Mr. Wilson himself, that was felt to be inappropriate. It is an expression of the People's House that presidents, nor any of us, ought to expect to be subjected to such conduct in the course of our business in this, the People's House. The resolution says simply what hopefully all of us feel, that we disapprove of the conduct cited and let others know that such conduct is neither welcome nor approved by the House of Representatives. At this time, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that Mr. CLYBURN of South Carolina be recognized to manage the balance of time on our side.
Without objection, so ordered. I'm
pleased to yield to the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Wilson, for as much time as he may consume.
The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I appreciate your service for America, and I further respect the Majority Leader, Mr. Hoyer. Mr. Speaker, I am humbled and grateful for the support and prayers of my wife, Roxanne, my 4 sons, my staff, the people of South Carolina, my colleagues, and the American people. Mr. Speaker, I think it is clear to the American people that there are far more important issues facing this nation than what we're addressing right now. The President said the time for games is over. I agree with the President. He graciously accepted my apology, and the issue is over. However, this action today will have done nothing for the taxpayers to rein in the growing cost and size of the federal government. It will not help more Americans secure jobs, promote better education, ensure retirement, or reform health insurance. It is the Democrat leadership in their rush to pass a very bad government health care plan that is bad medicine for America. It has muzzled the voices we represent and provoked partisanship. When we are done here today, we will not have taken any steps closer to helping more American families afford health insurance or helping small businesses create new jobs. The challenges our nation faces are far bigger than any one member of this House. It is time that we move forward and get to work for the American people. I yield the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this resolution addresses an issue of great importance to current and future members of this august body, the proper conduct of its members. Despite statements made by various leaders of the other party, this is not about partisan politics or inappropriate comments. To the contrary, this is about the rules of this House and reprehensible conduct. I stand here as a former school teacher and the proud father of a current public school teacher who teaches in the congressional district represented by Congressman Wilson. My grandchildren attend schools in that district. But, Mr. Speaker, this hall is the most prominent classroom in this great country, and all of us are teachers. We are bound by duty and the offices we hold to conduct ourselves as such. Classroom teachers and school children across the country and around the world looking in on our proceedings should see proper decorum and hear civil discourse. Our teachers are expected to teach our children to learn proper behavior. All of us are expected to give appropriate support and deference to the institutions that help us develop and maintain a civil and orderly society. Our three separate branches of government have defined roles to play in this process. And those of us who hold positions within these branches are expected and are duty-bound to treat each other with proper dignity and respect. Whether we like it or not, teachers and students see us as role models. But none of us is perfect. We all make mistakes, and we sometimes fall short of expectations. But when we do, proper contrition is expected. When one of us, while seated in a formal session, severely violates the rules of this body by shamelessly hurling accusations of mendacity towards the President of these United States, our Commander-in-Chief, and refuses to formally express remorse, we, at a minimum, are duty-bound to express our disapproval. Our teachers, our students, and constituents deserve no less. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from Ohio.
Mr. Speaker, I'll recognize myself for as much time as I may
The gentleman
consume.
from Ohio is recognized.
I think this is a sad day for the House of Representatives. I think that this is nothing more than a partisan stunt aimed at trying to divert people's attention from the real issue that the American people want to talk, and that's talk about health care. The gentleman from South Carolina made it clear the other night when he told the President's Chief of Staff that his behavior was inappropriate. And that's why he was calling to apologize to the President. The President graciously accepted his apology. And last Friday, none other than the Speaker of the House herself said that it's time for us to talk about health care and not Mr. Wilson. Now, the Speaker and I don't see eye to eye on every issue, but on this issue, I think that I'm in full agreement with her. Joe Wilson is a decent human being. He did the right thing. He called the President and apologized, and the President was gracious enough to accept it. And I just believe that a man who spent 25 years of his life in public service in the state Senate and here in Congress, who has 4 sons, all of whom are in the military, 3 of whom served in Iraq. We all know Joe Wilson. He is a decent man. And to put him through this on the floor of the House, I think is unacceptable, and it is a partisan stunt. There's been behavior that's gone on around here far more serious than this that didn't bring a resolution to the floor to condemn someone's behavior. Yes, people have made mistakes. Some have come down to the floor and apologized. Others have not. But none of it required a resolution. And to think that the precedent that is being set here today, the precedent, think about it, never has this happened before, that we're going to bring a resolution of disapproving of his behavior. My goodness, we could be doing this every day of the week. The American people sent us here to work together to solve the problems of our country. They didn't come here to talk about our behavior. They didn't send us here to do that. What they want us to do is to deal with the issue of health care. The president said we ought to work in a bipartisan fashion to get health care reform accomplished. I agree with the president. I'm here. I'm willing. I'm able. Set the time and the place, and we'll be there with our solutions to the health care problems in the country. But to divert the nation's attention from the issues they care about, health care, trying to make sure that we get jobs back into our economy, trying to do something about record deficits and record debt. No, we're not doing any of that. We're here on some witch hunt, some partisan stunt that the American people are not going to respect. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
Reserves the